You can probably open that super late, that camp. That camp's actually really good for like the post plant or like the as they tap, you can go open the cam and tag them, and it will waste their time even further, right? Because they can't really defuse when they've got the tag on them. So it's really good to keep that cam like available and ready for when they tap, rather than just opening it. She's probably aggressive, right? Okay. Nice. So right here, we didn't really peek anything. You can see here, like you kind of just walked out. And the problem is with this, right, is that first of all, we're also closer to the angle. So we're actually going to be exposed first. So generally as well, when we're peeking someone, we want to be as fast as we can on their screen. Instead of, what I mean is like, instead of doing this, instead of doing that, what I would do when I know that someone is in a specific position, I'm going to be more able to like put my crosshair in the right position and put myself in a way that I can position and peek them correctly, right? So pre-place my crosshair and move myself, not my crosshair. True, yeah, exactly. So if I know where the bot is now, right, I'm going to make sure I'm aiming at his head height and then swing him. And then I can use the movement. If I get it wrong, right, so say my crosshair's here. If I get it wrong on the bot, I can use my movement to correct myself. So instead of just doing this, I can do this. And as you can see, I corrected my crosshair during my movement, and as soon as my crosshair was on his head like during my movement, I stopped and then shot. So that's what like how you kind of peek, right? That's the basic way of kind of peeking, is that you'll use the movement to correct yourself and aim, because it's like two things you can do at the same time, right? You can move and aim at the same time. You can't move and shoot at the same time. So as soon as you are ready to shoot the bot, that's when you're going to, or shoot the enemy player, that's when you're going to stop still and then shoot. So yeah, as I mentioned here, right, there's other things as well, like technically, like I did mention that you're close to the wall here, so you are being spotted first, and that's just like to do with peeker's advantage and how it works with like people's like the perception in the game. Where if you're closer to a corner, you're going to basically be seen first. So it's even more important when you're close to a corner like this compared to her, right? She's very far away from this corner and you're very close to this corner. It's actually much more important in this situation for you to be swinging than it is for you to be like slow peeking. If you were the Reyna and you were really far away from the angle, it actually makes more sense sometimes for you to actually be walking around the angle and like scanning the angle. What I mean by scan the angle is instead of like peeking like we just said, like this, right? Whatever. Instead of peeking like this, instead of that, what we do instead is we scan the angle. So we do this, and then as soon as we see someone, we'll shoot them, right? We just scan the angle. So we're going to do this. That's what we do if we're the Reyna, because we're further away from the angle. If you plant yourself at a corner and then swing, it takes some time for you to build up speed. So if you go to the corner like this and swing, I'm actually quite slow right now. This is actually quite slow. But if I come back further and I swing like this, I've reached full speed before I've come around the corner. So then I come around the corner at full speed on their screen, and it's a lot harder for them to shoot me. So don't go straight to the corner like this and swing like this, because it's going to be slow on their screen, right? And it's going to be a free kill. But if you go further away from the corner and swing like this, that's when it's going to be a lot harder for them to shoot you. So just bear that in mind when you're like planting yourself for one of these swings. Because it can be the reason why you might die in one of those swings. But this is the exercise that I want you to do for counter strafing, and I just want you to place trips like this, just level with this thing here like this, and then we've got this. And what I want you to do is I want you to try and hit the middle of the door with counter strafing. So you can see here I'm going to counter strafe like this. And the important thing is about this is that it doesn't matter how accurate you are on the second bullet. On the second bullet, I couldn't care less how like accurate you are on the second bullet. But the important thing as well, turn on the shooting error at the top. You see my shooting error on the top right. Make sure you have that graph on. I didn't actually see you have that graph on. It's a very important graph to have on. So I would have that on, especially for this. But have it on at all times, ideally, because it can help you point to mistakes and that kind of stuff. But yeah, have this on. So you can see here on the shooting error graph, when I've got like yellow on the shooting error graph, it means that I'm shooting accurately. You can see here, if I move and shoot, I get blue. So you don't want to see blue. You want to see not very much blue if possible. You want to go past the trips when you can strafe. And what this does is it ensures that you're taking like a fair amount of a full step to make sure to like maximize your amount, of movement on the enemy screen. I would think about doing bursts of 2, but you can also do bursts of 3 or 4 as well. You can do bursts of 3 or 4. because I think bursts of 3 or 4 are also more realistic in actual games. So if you're going to do bursts of 3 or 4, then do that as well. And once again, the second, third, and fourth bullet being blue, not too much of a problem. Just make sure that the yellow one is blue. The first one is yellow. Though I said yeah. Okay, nice, good English. Make sure the first one is yellow. Cam is also fine. You need to try and find a kill. Usually, when you're in a 1v2, one of the biggest ways to win a 1v2 is to get a kill first before you have like a chance to be 2v1'd. So usually you want to be trying to be aggressive in a 1v2. Usually, not always, but usually, because you would take a fight before the enemy can set up a kill on you, basically. And then it becomes a 1v1, and then it's just like really hard for them to. It can be even harder for them to then win that round. Okay, you know what I name?
One enemy remaining.
Okay, this is good. I would try and be very unaggressive here. Okay, that was risky. So, as soon as your Reyna gets this kill, the first thing I'm thinking of is living here. The first thing I'm going to try and do as soon as she gets this kill is try and connect up with her. Trying to go this way. Because basically the only way this guy wins if he takes 1v1s, right? Just reverse what I just said about the two 1v2s, right? Now we're the 2 in the 1v2. What does this person want the most? This person wants 2 1v1s. She wants to be able to take 1 kill and then another kill. So the best thing to do is to try and find a way that you two can link up and get a trade or get like a high-low situation going. So then it makes sense, or crossfire, right? So then it means that she can't take this 1v1 she wants. So that the first thing I would do is as soon as this person gets the kill, I'm thinking about how can I link up and make it so this person can't get that free 1v1. Sometimes it's not always the case. Sometimes it can be very hard for you to link up. And in those cases, it's about playing for your life as well as possible. So in this situation, because it may not be, I mean, to be fair, it is quite easy to link up. You just run this way. But if you can't, in the situation you can't link up, then what I would do is I would just play for your life effectively. You might even, if you've ever heard pro comms, you might hear things like play for ones. You might hear that phrase being said, play for ones. If you're in like 2v1 sometimes by pro players, what they're saying is they're playing for 1v1s with the last guy because they can't link up and they want to try and live as long as possible and to like delay the guy or like buy time for like the bomb to go off, or they want to get one as low as possible, so give him 2 hard fights, so then it's hard for him to win those 2 1v1s in a row. So sometimes that can be the case where if you give him a really hard 1v1 initially, he's going to be like 10 HP to fight the next guy. So it's really, really easy for the next guy to get the 1v1. So sometimes you might hit that as well, and that can also be a viable way to play at 2v1s. But if you can link up with the teammate, it's usually better.